On April 12, 1961, the USSR sent the first manned spacecraft into orbit. As Yuri Gagarin blasted through the stratosphere and into outer space, mankind's perception of its own limits changed forever. This event, caused by the USSR's need to show scientific superiority, would set a precedent not to be reversed until the USA's moon landing in 1969. It would create a hero for the Soviet Union and prove that humans could survive in the cold expanse of space. In 108 minutes, the world will change forever. Despite cooperation during World War II, a peaceful coexistence between the USSR and the USA would never be possible. Even within those few years of collaboration, their diametrically opposed ideologies strained relations. With the advent of the atomic bomb, the nature of war changed drastically. Neither side could risk outright war, so they fought through proxy wars and rivalries. Sputnik 1, launched on October 4, 1957, would set off a competition for scientific superiority between the USSR and the USA known as the space race, though it was only 22.8 inches in diameter, roughly the size of a beach ball. The world's first satellite both impressed and frightened the US immensely. Though its intention was to study the Earth during the first International Geophysical Year, it would set off a rivalry that would last decades. Almost exactly a month later, Russia would gain further glory with the launch of Sputnik 2, which carried the first living organism into orbit. The dog Laika would never return, but it illustrated that the Russians could keep an organism alive even as the spacecraft left the atmosphere. Though with the Explorer, Vanguard, and Pioneer spacecraft, the USA would enter the space race, the USSR's technology would remain far advanced. In 1959, as America was still sending probes into orbit, the Soviet Union would map the moon with the Luna series. By 1958, head of the Russian space program, Sergei Korolev, would have an even greater vision in mind. He set his sights on the seemingly impossible goal of getting a man into space. Sergei Pavlovich Korolev, born on January 12, 1909, is considered the most important man involved in the Soviet space program. Involved in rocketry before World War II, he co-founded the Group for Investigation of Reactive Motion. Only 2 years into the program, the military realized the potential of rockets and replaced it with the Reaction Propulsion Scientific Research Institute. Through this, Korolev would design the RP-381, the Soviet Union's first manned rocket-propelled aircraft. However, in 1938, before Korolev could see his rocket fly, he was sent to the Gulag. By 1940, Stalin recognized the importance of rocketry and released Korolev, but his health would be ruined and his RP-318 would be launched without his involvement. Following the war, he would be appointed chief constructor for development of long-range ballistic missiles. He designed the world's first ICBM, the R-7. This rocket would launch Sputnik into orbit. From that point on, Korolev put his energy into space travel. His plans for a manned spaceflight were approved in 1958. Without his incredible energy and determination, the event would never have been possible. By early 1960, the cosmonauts were being chosen. Only the best pilots, the strongest and most intelligent, will be picked. By March 20th of the year, 20 men reported to the Cosmonaut Training Center. There they would undergo rigorous testing and training from Nikolai Kamanin, head of the cosmonaut team. Entirely new methods must be developed to simulate the incredible G-loads and weightlessness that a cosmonaut would encounter. Meanwhile, scientists designed the proper spacecraft needed to get a man to space and back. Several practice flights are launched. Korabl Sputnik 1, the first of these, is sent into orbit but fails upon re-entry. The spacecraft continues to orbit for 844 days until it burns up. In the summer, they begin attempts to retrieve living organisms. The first attempt, with 2 dogs aboard, explodes shortly after liftoff. Another attempt is made, this time successfully. The 2 dogs, Belka and Strelka, are retrieved. By winter, 2 more attempts at retrieving dogs are made. The first one fails, but the next one is successful. On March 9th of 1961, Korabl Sputnik 4 is launched. Once again it has a dog aboard, but this time there is also a dummy attached to test the suit. Everything goes well. Then on March 23rd, tragedy strikes. Valentin Bondarenko, the youngest cosmonaut, dies in training when a fire breaks out in an oxygen-rich isolation chamber. However, the mission goes on. Nothing will deter Korolev from his objective. 2 days later, Korabl Sputnik 5 with another test dummy is successfully launched. This is the final test before the actual flight. Now the first cosmonaut must be chosen. The choice comes between two men, German Titov and Yuri Gagarin. But the choice is clear. Yuri Gagarin will be the first man in space.